Following our first report last night from Paris as the Migrants and PSG supporters caused chaos, we can now confirm that unfortunately at least 2 people are now dead, multiple people injured, and at least over 550 people arrested so far. In this video, we're going to give you guys all the updates. Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome to 2C TV, your global news channel. We have a follow-up update from Paris and what happened last night, which the media continue to lie to everybody, saying that this was after the match, the Champions League final, and it started as celebration and a small minority started to cause trouble. We have evidence, we showed you the evidence that the troubles started before the match even started. We also have more evidence today to show you the flags of Morocco, Tunisia, Algeria, and of course the Palestinian flags out on the streets before the match even started, during the match, and after the game as well. And unfortunately, we have another follow-up update as we speak right now. In central parts of Paris, chaos has once again started, especially around Champs-Élysées, which we're going to give you guys all the updates as we go. First things first, 2 people unfortunately killed, nearly 560 people so far have been arrested after the disorder broke out in France. By the way, some of the troubles were outside of Paris, which we're going to cover as well. 192 people have been injured, and there were 692 fires, including 260 involving vehicles. Now, shops, small shops, big shops, cars, everything was targeted by a bunch of thugs. So while the media still going with their narrative that this was generally a largely peaceful celebration, it happened after the match and all that, more reaction is coming, including from the Interior Ministry. So they were going to be cancelling the victory parade for PSG. Then they realized that's not a good look. So the victory parade happened. But now more troubles are happening on the streets. The Interior Ministry called those who started the unrest savages. Now, the Interior Minister says that around 30 police officers have also been injured, some of them very seriously, unfortunately. One of them is in a coma after being hit by fireworks. So, when it comes to the damage last night, it wasn't just about property, it wasn't also about the other people, but also the law enforcement. Let's go to the first video. A 17-year-old boy was stabbed last night to death, unfortunately, in the city of Dax during the riots. And let's go to the first video. We have more updates about what exactly happened.
Voilà à gauche. Elle est là. Elle est là. Le corps il est là. Viens. Elle va te péter ta mère la pute. Elle va te péter ta mère la pute. Elle va te péter. Voilà fils de pute.
Yeah. Now, these sort of things are becoming regular and normal, unfortunately, especially in Paris. Over the last 10, 15 years, 20 years, it's been the same thing over and over again. It's just getting a little bit worse as diversity is becoming our strength, right? Now, the second person, obviously the first person was that 17-year-old teenager who was unfortunately stabbed. The second one was killed by a man who was hit by a car while riding a scooter. Now, according to the police chief in Paris, he said that the man was in his 20s and the so-called incident is being investigated. I mean, they're investigating to see how he died. Yeah, I hope they do a good job at that investigation. Let's go.
Wesh, il y a une caméra au-dessus de lui, tu sais. Wesh.
I must agree for once with the Interior Ministry in France. Yes, they are savages. Even animals don't behave like this. So we have that. Now, while Paris burned And again, as I said, some of the troubles continue tonight. We're going to show you some evidence. The next video showed the flags of Morocco on the left-hand side and the so-called Palestinian flags being waved in the videos. Flags of Algeria and Tunisia also being waved. And it seems like multiculturalism seems to be going really, really well in the capital of France. Let's go to that. Now, for the record, before the media continue to blame everything on the actual French people who happen to support PSG, we had the victory parade earlier, and the actual French people and PSG supporters were behaving as usual. And I'm going to show you the evidence of when France was France, when you had unity, when the culture was there, they had a common set of values. The troubles that we are now seeing again over the last couple of hours has been happening after the victory parade. Not much actually happened during it in terms of any sort of chaos. North Africans and Arabs are primarily responsible for what happened last night. You can see the Algerian flag in this next video, which we're going to show you. And then we're going to show you how France was before. No matter who you are or where you come from, wherever you live, whatever town or city or country, that place is now your home. Now imagine doing that to your own home. Lack of respect. These are the so-called values that are being brought to the continent of Europe. Now, there were those, again in the media last night, who said, again, this happened after the match, after the celebrations were over a small group. And then they said, this has always been normal in France, even 30 years ago. It wasn't. Never was until the 2000s onwards. In 1998, when the World Cup was being hosted in France, and when France won the World Cup, people came out to celebrate. There were no troubles during the World Cup itself. And these are the videos, this is a video, just an example of what actually happened on the night when France won the World Cup, a huge deal. This happened. Very different vibe, right? All that's changed. And this was the beginning of change. In 1998, late 90s, it was the beginning of the change that everybody was complacent, saying, this is good. The liberalism of France, of course, everything's going to be fine. We're all going to get along. Now, these are issues will eventually reach Britain and the Netherlands and all the other countries if we're not careful. Now, we don't have it yet in England, for example, but we could. The level of regular chaos that you see on the streets of Paris. Now in London, for example, we have other problems, which is your regular casual stabbings, but not necessarily this level of rioting, but you are going to have it. Now, more evidence from exactly what happened last night, damage to private properties of normal people in Paris. France at this point, and definitely Paris, has not become the third world. It's become the fourth world. This is the new country.
Oh le Coran! Il a écrasé plus de 2 personnes, les frères! Oh lolo 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 lolo! Oh lolo lolo! Oh lolo! Les gars, pourquoi vous l'avez laissé faire? Oh lolo! Ah ouais non! Comment il a fait ça? Non! Ah ouais, non! Non! Ah ouais, non! Ah ouais, non! Ah ouais, non! 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 Les gars, le mec il a essayé d'écraser 20 les personnes. Il a mis fuite, il a laissé sa voiture. Wallah, tellement c'était chaud sur lui. Carrément, les gars, je suis chaud.
Why? Just why? Now, the media blaming us on football is fascinating. The media have no idea anything about actual football hooligans, especially the culture that we used to have in England. We don't anymore. Back in the day, there was a point to it. The violence that you were getting from the football hooligans culture was football teams' rivals. Primarily, started as banter, then it got really violent. The clashes were between the fans. They were not going around randomly targeting other people's properties and shops and houses and cars. This had nothing to do with that. This is a whole different culture. I can't even call it the culture. It's just barbaric behavior. And apparently we have to just accept it as the new norm. Now, as we said, a police officer is now in coma, unfortunately, after being hit by a firecracker that emerged from the crowd of supporters. Now, the Department of Northwestern France have said that we will keep you guys posted on the well-being of the officer, and we are investigating the matter to find out what exactly happened. What exactly happened? Well, they targeted him with firecrackers, and of course he's now in coma. It's not rocket science. Watch. Yeah, while the actual French PSG supporters behaved very well and civilized earlier today during the victory parade of PSG. This happened last night, and it's still happening again around Champs-Élysées and, of course, the streets around it. So we have to also give you guys the update in terms of the arrests. As we said, 559 now is still basically in custody, right? But this was actually the arrests were across the country. 491 of them were in Paris. Of those detained across the country, 320 were instantly taken into custody. The others were hunted down even until early hours this morning. 254 in the French capital. Now, more arrests will be made according to the police in Paris. At least we know about the capital. We don't know exactly what the plan is for the suburban areas of the city, but we'll keep you guys posted. Also, there is a lot happening tonight on 2CTV. We'll come back later and give you guys an update on what's going on as we speak between Russia and Ukraine. Let's give you guys get some of the reactions first. Thank you for your super chats. In a previous super chat, in reference to the American VP, I misspelled what I was calling him. Is walk away, Vance. Oh yeah. In regards to the Islamist riots and killings, only some Napoleonic backbone will end. Well, you do need some radicalism right now in the Western countries, especially in Western European countries, which we are not having so far. Ivan says, animals. Any word from the great simp Macron? Well, the only thing that came out of the palace, which was an indirect statement, was that everything's going to be fine and we are going to continue with the victory parade. Now, the victory parade itself, with the actual French football fans, that went well. It was fine, as expected. It was just afterwards, again, over the last couple of hours, then we were seeing more problems. But yeah, no emergency, even though people have lost their lives and many injured, and a police officer is in a coma, but apparently it's not an emergency. Just get used to it. It's just part of living in Paris. Peter says, don't you just love open borders? Open borders and also lack of any appetite to do any sort of cultural integration, or at least vet people's backgrounds to find out whether they are compatible or not. Let's not forget that a lot of the people who live in Paris, they are from the former colonies of France. When you look at some of the cultural classes coming from Morocco, Algeria, and certain countries in most of the North African countries right now, you know that the relationship between those countries and France, when France was colonizing, it was a whole different relationship compared to, for example, the British Empire and the colonies. Now, nobody's saying like, oh, bring back empires or empires were good, but we're just saying objectively speaking, and again, not that 100% the relationship between the British Empire and all the colonies were good. No, absolutely not. But overall, over time, and that's why when the British Empire devolved and people say voluntarily fell, they created the Commonwealth. Now, even the Commonwealth is not perfect. It's still got a lot of dodgy countries, right? But the relationship between the Commonwealth countries and Britain, pretty solid. You don't have that between the French and the former colonies, because the relationship from the beginning was always toxic. The French never successfully managed to create that integration between the French culture and the North African countries that they were colonizing. So those countries didn't really feel that they were getting much from the French, whereas there were a lot of people, again, not everybody in every colony of the British Empire, no, there was a lot of people who were left out, but there were a lot of people who understood how to deal with the Brits, and the Brits realized how to deal with that colony or that colony. Let's do business, let's go build this, let's go give them the justice system. And there was a whole different relationship. And this is why you have this level of lack of culture from North African countries coming to France and say, you know what, we don't really care. You guys came to our country and ruined everything, and now we're going to come and ruin your country, whether consciously or subconsciously. Trooper Bear says, France will deport them to the UK. I don't blame them. A lot of people still blame, for example, Emmanuel Macron's government for what's happening in the UK with this small boat. I would do the exact same thing. It's the job of the British government to not keep the doors open. Send them back. Just say, Britain is closed today. Go home. Avi from Israel says that these are the same barbarians who terrorized the French Jews at the pro-Hamas demonstrations. And the violence you get in Paris, especially whether you're talking about the anti-Semitic attacks or just anti-French, anti-Western attacks, is on a whole different level compared to what you see in London. Now, London is not great, but when Jews get targeted in London, most of the time it's verbal and it's not pleasant, but it's still shouty things, oh, you should go back, you Zionists, that sort of stuff. In France, you could get killed easily. Those doctors and engineers behave really, really weird. I know. They're all doctors and engineers, right? Coming from Algeria. Jeff says, who's really instigating these riots? What's the goal? It's just a clash of cultures that has been going on for a very, very long time. Any excuse for these guys to come out to burn down Paris regularly, it happens. It's just, this is the norm in Europe. A lot of people in North America, Canada and US won't probably understand exactly what's going on. I mean, you guys, if you're watching right now from those countries, you're watching these sort of channels regularly. But I can understand that it's not normal for you. Like, wait, what does that mean? So it just keeps happening. Yeah, it just keeps happening. Gotta get used to it, right? That's what they're telling us. We got a number of trolls in the live chat. Ahmed something. I've been exploder says, we will win. Europe will be ours. Al Akbar. That's not correct. Misspelling. You ruined your joke. Keith says, while the Western governments and its state-controlled media continue to make excuses for those rioters, nothing is going to get better. No. While you still have denial coming from the state and establishment, nothing will happen. Now, what they want is a bit of an implosion from the indigenous population, for example, in France, in the Netherlands and other places, and then they could use it against you, saying, okay, everything was going fine, everything is okay, we have some problems, everything is okay, but we have a bunch of far-right French people who now want to bring down the system and democracy, so we now have to introduce even more state control and police state because they are the enemy. Not the people who've been going around burning cars and shops, no. It's the far right in France who are now angry, they are the real threat. So it's a win-win for them. First they deny it, then they try to control the narrative and the media. And if you get angry, then they will say, well, this is a perfect opportunity to introduce more state control. And at the end of the day, it's just going to become a tyrannical state, completely. And it's going to get to a point where a lot of people say, what's going to happen to Europe? What will happen to Europe, right? If divisions continue, if multiculturalism continues, and if you don't really have a unifying set of values and a bunch of people who don't actually respect your flag and the nation, well, it's not going to be a total takeover. But what will happen, because there will always be people in France and in other countries in Europe who will always love their country. There will come a point, perhaps within the next 50 years, not yet. I'm not saying everything's fine. I'm just saying what I'm about to say will happen in decades, where in each country, like France, like the UK, primarily England, you will have a small chunk, and then they will call it a region, who will just become a devolved administration, and there will just be a different tribe who don't want to be basically French. So you might have a complete isolated section, and they won't want to be completely independent because they want to be connected to the central government of France or the central government of Westminster in London, but a devolved administration, sort of like what you have in Wales or Scotland in the UK. But they won't have their own autonomy. They will probably have their own flag. They don't want to exercise the culture like the rest of the country. So essentially you're going to have different pockets of, for example, North African Islamic culture, just the east of France, for example. That is the only scenario at this point, because there won't be a full takeover. There will be people fighting back. And they will say, well, we're going to be on this side, you're going to be on that side. And the way things are going, the way it's going, there is no going back to normal. The video I showed you from 1998 Paris. And even back then, it was already starting to become, as they say, diverse. And it's nothing to do with skin color or anything like that. It's about the different set of values or lack of values, different cultures, different mentalities, barbaric behavior. You're not going to go back. It's very, very difficult. There are many people who have already moved, and it's not really about, oh, let's just deport them. It's not about that. Many people are now born here in these countries, and it will be very difficult to differentiate. But politically speaking, we can see it. You can see it here, watch this. Like, well, no, I don't care. I have a solution. Let's just do this. That's not how it works. You can say that, but the political establishment will be in power, the government. And they will sit down, and every time they want to do something, even mass deportations or whatever, well, there will be complications. There will be judges, there will be the Supreme Courts, and everybody else, the bureaucrats say, well, we can't do that, so how do we differentiate between this person or that person? Even if you try to deport the foreign criminals and the illegal migrants, that's not going to fix anything. But the other solution is very radical. How are you going to be, are you going to do it on a basis of people's skin color? Because that's also very complicated. That becomes very, very ruthless, right? Well, what if someone who's literally the whole family have been indigenous in France, and somebody went to North Africa when the French had an empire and had sex with someone once, and one of their kids happened to be a little bit brown, and then the rest of the family were white, and then that gene came back. So the current person is a little bit brown. Are you going to deport that person, even though their whole family is French? So doing it based on class division is also really weird. There's a race division. But doing it based on the cultural divisions, that's fair. But again, how do you differentiate? Are you going to go knock on everyone's door? Say, okay, so do you like the French flag? So at the moment people find out, you're asking that question to decide whether you're going to deport them or not, they're going to say, yeah, we like the French flag. They're going to lie. It's a big problem. It's very, very difficult to see how you're going to be able to go back to the 1960s France. That's my point. There has to be some sort of solution. There will not be a full takeover of, for example, North African Islamic culture in that sense, but there will be pockets of countries like France that will completely become devolved Islamic North African administrations. And then it's going to fail. And then they're going to cross the border to the rest of France again. Because let's not forget, especially when it comes to cultures like Islam and the ideologies like Islam, they're not very good at governance. They're not very good at economics. They're not very good at social policies. You've seen it for the past few hundred years. Even the Islamic empires, they fall apart. They don't know how to do prosperity. They're not really in favor of education. So it falls apart every single time. Then people have to leave. Anyway, there is a more reaction. We got Matt saying a Big Brother attempts to control one's sense of purpose through regimented fear. Big Sister rules through social harmony and threat of exclusion. Thanks for that, Matt. A couple of non-super chats. Dark Wolf says, white people acting as if they are not the original football hooligans. If you think what you saw in Paris last night and tonight as we speak is anything to do with football hooligans, then you, Dark Wolf, are an idiot. There's nothing about football hooligan, the culture or anything like that was in place. And I already explained why. David says that the West fell with the collapse of Christian observance. Yep. Without Christ, the savages have broken in, assisted by... That's one of the biggest issues, by the way. Vacuum. There's been a vacuum that's been created. In the name of liberal secularism. Only faith in Christ will see us through. Yep. But at least in terms of the cultural values, because there are a lot of people who are still conservative and have traditional values, but they might not be like practicing going to church. But you stop as a society even practicing the values, the Christian cultural values that's supposed to be in France. I don't really care what the French are going to say about the acceleration of liberal secularism and how proud they are. You could only have liberal secularism if the backbone of the country is still behind cultural Christian values. We can't have a liberal secular society if your culture and the state is Islamic. They're not going to allow you to be an atheist. You'll die. Steve says, Maya, is Andre Walker okay? No videos for a while. Yeah, well, I can confirm it's still alive. But yeah, I don't know what he's doing in terms of his YouTube plans. I'll have a chat with him. Anyway, we're going to take a break. We'll come back because we have to tell you what's going on between Russia and Ukraine. Don't forget, download the 2CTV app. The link is in the description under this video. And of course, become a member of 2CTV Plus by going on 2c.tv. I'm Maya Tusi, and we are the media.